Yep.
Oh my goodness. Look who I've got in the house, and I'm going to play him a song. Better watch out. Better not cry. You better not shout. I'm telling you why. Santa Claus is coming to town. Santa Claus is coming to town. Santa Claus is coming to town. And that's all I'm going to do because, Mark, we want to talk to you. And my very first question is, why did you choose that song?
Because I love Christmas and Santa Claus is a gangster. No, I'm a big fan of Christmas. I love this time of year, and that's one of my favorites.
Yeah, it's a cracking track. I love the Bruce Springsteen version, but I heard Buble singing it this morning as well. So,
Okay.
who's your
Mr.
favorite?
Christmas himself, eh?
Yeah, absolutely. He must make an
Oh,
absolute fortune this time of year.
I bet. I bet.
And Noddy Holder makes 500,000 a year. Um,
Bet Mariah Carey coins it in as well, doesn't she?
she must do all right. She
Yeah.
must do all right. Mark Ormrod, thank you so much
Yes.
for coming on my show. This is my Christmas special. Um,
Okay.
for those people that don't know who you are, give us a quick introduction.
In a nutshell, I'm a former Royal Marines commando. I was injured on the tour of Afghanistan on Christmas Eve 2007, so 16 years this year. Became a triple amputee, both legs, dominant right arm. I'm a father of three, a husband of one. I don't know what I do for a living, but it involves a lot of traveling, a lot of speaking, and a lot of just taking any opportunities that come my way. I like to keep fit and healthy. I'm a purple belt in Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, and I live in Plymouth.
Brilliant. Up the Devon. Oh, you an Argyle fan?
I'm not a football fan at all, to be
Okay.
fair, but
Okay.
I would support Argyle being the local team.
Yeah, there's a lot of news. There's a lot of news today about the Schumacher's on his way out, which is a real shame because he's taking them
Oh,
from.
is he?
Yeah, it's a real shame. Real shame. Anyway,
Yeah.
those of you that aren't interested in football, Mark, I've got some questions for you. So Royal Marine, it's
Yep.
got to be the toughest training in the world for the military.
It's arguably the longest and hardest regular forces training in the world. So special forces is a level above, but in terms of regular infantry training, yeah, it's up there.
Yeah. Okay. So how long is the training? What was the training that you did, and how long was it?
It's 32 weeks. If you do it in one hit, if you don't get injured, if you don't fail anything, when you factor in Christmas leave, summer leave, and Easter leave, you're looking at the best part of a year. This is for the what we call other ranks. The officer training is a minimum, if you go straight in from university, is a minimum of 18 months. So they're probably looking at close to 2 years if they do it all in one hit. So it's long and it's laborious and it's arduous, and that's one of the reasons I think why it is the hardest, because most people can do anything for a couple weeks at a time, but if you're doing it constantly and consistently for the best part of a year, you know you've got to be on top of this to keep pushing yourself through what is pretty much a miserable existence for that time.
So as you know, my son-in-law is actually at the Livingstone at the moment. He's doing the training. So yeah,
Yeah,
I know all
he'll
about
tell
it.
you.
But yeah, absolutely, I do hear some stories. Someone here said, did I hear jiu-jitsu mentioned? Come on, tell us a little
You
bit about
did.
that.
I've been training in Brazilian Jiu Jitsu now since 2017. The guy that got me into it is also a former Royal Marine, a physical training instructor. He was the head of Royal Marines Unarmed Combat and a purple belt in 2017. He's now a black belt when he introduced me to it. And he basically took me to what he called the combat room on camp, told me what Brazilian Jiu Jitsu was, gave me my first intro session, and then we have spent the last 7 years figuring out how to adapt techniques, develop a game plan, try to grow the para jiu-jitsu community and spread the word amongst not only veterans but anyone with a physical or a mental injury that wants some sort of I'm going to say outlet, but it's more of a passion which turns into an outlet. Um, But as you know, you're asking, so I'm assuming you train yourself. You know what an addictive sport it is, what an inclusive sport it is, what a phenomenal community is wrapped around it. Um, yeah, it's just great. It's great, and you don't have to be an able-bodied individual to genuinely advance through the ranks based on hard work, you know, and it is hard work.
Yeah, but
Hmm.
I don't think you're afraid of hard work, are you, Mark?
No, I love it. I love a bit of graft.
so, so
I think I'm afraid of the opposite, if I'm honest, of
what?
just being given stuff.
Sitting down and doing nothing, like doing a
Yeah.
podcast.
Well, no, this is technically work, you
Yeah,
know.
absolutely, absolutely. But I don't want more
Hmm.
people to know about you. So Mark Allen introduced me to you. So he reckons you're a remarkable human being. And
As is he.
so I'm thinking that Paul Taylor is a Marine as well. Obviously mentioning in bottom field.
Well, I would say Paul Taylor is a psycho if he says he loves bottom field, because let's face it, it is not a nice place to be. The the anxiety that hits pre bottom field is pretty terrifying. But for those that don't know, that's basically what you probably see on the adverts and the TV shows. It's the assault course when you're climbing ropes and running over walls and going under cargo nets and barbed wire and all that kind of stuff. So it's not a nice place to be. And there's an estuary right outside the rear entrance to the camp. And when the tide goes out, it's just mud, and it's like a favorite place for punishment, covering guys in mud and playing rugby and stuff like that in there.
But all of that training got you through the incident, and I'm not going to go through that today because you've spoken on other podcasts about that, including Rob Moore. So
Yes.
you were on the Rob Moore podcast. And I don't know if anyone listens to Rob Moore. He does the Disruptors, and he was I heard him on a show recently where the interviewer asked him who his favorite guest was, and I am talking to his favorite guest today.
Did he say me?
He said you, mate. Yeah,
Oh,
he
nice.
absolutely said you. You blew him away. Now, this is a guy that's talking to all kinds of people
Yeah.
from all around the world, business people, billionaires, all kinds of people. But you blew him away.
Rob's a great guy. Really great guy.
And Karen has met you, and she said
Yeah,
you're a remarkable human being as well. She's a Plymouthian.
she
So,
is. She is.
so,
Hi, Karen.
so you had your incident. You're lying in a hospital bed.
Hmm.
You've just realized that you've lost 3 limbs,
Hmm.
and you've heard that there's somebody in America that does some sort of training to get amputees using prosthetics. Can you tell us that story, because that's pretty intense?
All right. So initially, I had the Hollywood cliche talk from the doctor. You're never going to walk again. Sorry about that. Enjoy the rest of your life. Luckily for me, I had access to a laptop and the internet. This is, beginning of 2008. So I started doing my own research on triple amputees to see if there's anybody that lived anywhere in the world that was actually out there using prosthetics and living their life. And I very quickly found a guy in America called Cameron Clapp. So used his videos when I got out of hospital for some source of motivation to push me on through the challenges. Eventually, I say eventually, very quickly, I emailed Cameron to introduce myself and tell him my story. Told him that I thought what he was doing was phenomenal and could he help me. He introduced me to his team that built his legs, built his arm, programmed it all, trained him. And then the short version of the story is I asked for permission from the MOD to go out and train with these guys. I got told no. I spent about 2 weeks agonizing over whether I should or shouldn't go, because my mindset was I'll be out of the military soon and these people won't be in my life. But the other part of it was I'm a soldier, I'm paid to do what I'm told, and I'm at the bottom of the chain of command. But then after many late night conversations with Mrs. Ormrod, I decided to go AWOL. And I just booked a flight on the 9th of June 2009. Thought I'd deal with the consequences when I get home. Flew out to America, to Oklahoma City, spent 3 weeks training with these guys and avoiding phone calls from the MOD. And that trip changed my life. 9th of June 2009 was the last time I ever used a wheelchair. I don't own one. I gave it away. I gave them both away. I had an electric and a manual one. Got rid of them to kind of get rid of that temptation, burnt the boats. And then that was it. That's the last time I used it. I think, what is that, 14 years ago? 2009? Yeah, just been a full-time prosthetic user ever since. So not an easy decision, but absolutely the right one.
Yeah, superb. So in the interview I heard, you said that that 3 weeks training was worse than the Royal Marines. Is that right?
It was very, very close. And I know that sounds strange, but going through Royal Marines training is tough, but you're surrounded by a bunch of people all going through the same thing. This training was just me on my own. Being mentored by a guy who was much further ahead than me. There was no one really that I could moan to or whinge to or that was doing the same thing as me. It was just me, myself, and I trying to battle my way through this process. I had no one with me from the UK. I wasn't allowed to bring anyone with me. I didn't have my wheelchair. I was very early on in my recovery. So you've got to imagine, when you wear prosthetics, there are blisters, there are cuts, there are bruises, your whole body is out of alignment. And normally when you're in pain or you're hurting, you jump in the wheelchair, but I didn't have one. So every morning, no matter what state I was in, I had to put the legs on and go out and do another 10, 12, 15 hours of walking, of training, of living in constant pain. And it was horrible. Like everything that we take for granted hurt. Like sitting on a wooden chair in a restaurant to eat lunch. I've got a carbon fiber ass. My sockets come all the way up to my ass and my groin. And when you're sore, you just want something comfy to sit on, and you sit on a wooden chair or a park bench, and the little slats between your, on a bench when you've got carbon and flesh pinching all the time, and getting in and out of a car. Just everything was just brutal all the time. Just constant pain, discomfort, agony, going to bed at night after a shower and putting cream on, waking up in the morning and putting Vaseline on the sore spots to reduce friction, and back was in constant pain all the time. So it was pretty brutal. And then on the very last day, we had been in Texas in a roller coaster park called Six Flags, riding roller coasters. It was 109 degrees. I'd been walking for 8 hours, and it was that walk back to the car, which is where I had that kind of memory flash from Royal Marines training. And the way I felt walking back to that car after 3 weeks of non-stop physical exertion, and that day in particular, 8 hours, 109 degrees, as I was walking back to the car, it reminded me of how I felt coming to the end of my 30 miler, which is one of the final tests we do in the Royal Marines. Like the way I felt physically and mentally walking through that car park, I could see the car in the distance. Like when you finish the 30 miler, you can see the finish line. Every step was just agony. Like every part of my body was in pieces. But in my mind, I was just like, one more step, one more step, one more step. And then I got to the car. We had to go from Texas to Oklahoma, and I just crashed out. And that was me, done. Just passed out in the car, got up the next day and flew home after 3 weeks of getting my ass whipped.
Wow.
Yeah, it was brutal, but it was worth it. Absolutely worth it.
Yeah. So you've been sharing some videos recently and absolutely make me chuckle. They're absolutely brilliant. So thank you for sharing those. It's taking away the embarrassment of talking about it for able-bodied people like myself, to talk to you. So thank you so much for sharing those videos, and we want to see more of that, because you need to break down those barriers. You're up here. You're a Marine, and then you've done all of that. And just before we came on, I asked you about that red thing behind you. You're going to have to tell the people listening what that red thing is behind you. Yeah. So those of you that are listening on the podcast, explain what it is, because not everybody can see it, Mark.
So it's a red shirt in a frame, and on the front of it, I don't know if you can read that, Ashley, but it says It says the Gumpathon. So it's named after Forrest Gump, because in the movie, one day he decides to get up and just goes running I can't remember where he runs in the movie, but this event was a run with myself and a team of Royal Marines, an Army Commando, and a US Marine, where we ran from New York to LA, 3,563 miles back in 2010, raising money for military charities. So I put my blades on. I didn't run as far as they did, obviously, but between us, we leapfrogged 3,500 miles across America in 3 months, I think. So
Wow.
yeah, that was kind of my first step into the world of fundraising, if you like.
Uh,
I was trying to do
I,
something to push myself.
step. You don't do anything by steps. You jump.
Well,
You
there was a
absolutely
lot of
jump.
steps.
So,
Yeah.
how how much have you raised so far, Mark, for various different charities?
So 2010, that event was like the first, like I said, step into it. And since then to now, across the board for all the different military charities, over those years, I think it's close to 5 million at this point.
Wow. Wow.
And that's kind of what I can. The great thing about when you do this is some of it you can measure. You can see the Just Given pages, you can see this event raised this, but the ripples of it is what you can't measure. So, I have people contact me and say, I saw you do this, because of that I did this, and now we've got this much for your charity. And you can't, there's no way, you probably could keep on top of it, but it'd be a full-time job. So yeah, I reckon indirectly it's well over 5 mil, but directly from what I can quantify is about five.
That's incredible. That is incredible.
Yeah.
Well done, Mark. So,
Thank you.
what are you doing now? Because you stayed in the military for a while, and you went and gave talks and things like that. And I was lucky enough to go to my son-in-law's pass out a couple of weeks ago. So he's just trained his first batch, and they were all there parading, and it was an incredible day. And so I know what goes on. And you used to actually go there and speak to the new Marines that had just passed out, didn't you? So what else did you do then when you were?
So back then, it was I was working for one of the charities, the Royal Marines charity, and part of my job was to speak to the recruits when they got to week 28, and it was I found it really awkward in the beginning, because this is like 5 years into a 10-year Afghanistan campaign, so people were literally passing out of their training, doing a bit of pre-deployment training, and then going out to a war zone. So they're at week 28 of 32, and then a triple amputee turns up in the lecture theatre to give them a talk. So I know what they're like, and in that stage of training, they're all like, "Yeah, let's go. Yeah, we're gonna go." And they think it's all a game, like I did when I was younger. And then the reality of war is stood in front of them, giving a lecture about the Royal Marines charity. Now, what made it extra awkward was the day I gave that talk to the week 28 recruits was the day the guys I spoke to previously are passing out of training. So the whole camp's full of families. They're all excited. It's the big culmination of all this training. They're there to celebrate. And then I have to be mindful that they don't want to see a triple amputee walking across to give a lecture. So I used to hide behind buildings and then run and hide behind a tree. And I used to zigzag and dart into the lecture theatre from my office to make sure that none of them saw me, because I just thought, well, I'm going to ruin their day, because the cold, hard reality of what their son is about to get exposed to is me. I didn't want to do that. So for about 4 years, I used to zigzag across camp just to avoid these families, and then stand in front of these recruits, give them a lecture about the Royal Marines charity, and then go. So it was crazy. It was a bit strange. It was a bit weird, but I think sometimes I was overthinking it, but I was just quite mindful. I didn't want to ruin anyone's day.
Yeah, but it was an amazing day, and all the parents were coming over to my son-in-law and saying thank you, sir, and all that sort of malarkey, and I can imagine how you must have felt stood there, with your prosthetics on, thinking, oh my goodness. But look, Look, you've got an amazing story. So you should be proud of what you've done. You inspire so many people. So I shouldn't let that worry you. So how do you actually make money today, then, Mark? Because you're not involved with anything to do with the military anymore. So you're a civilian now. So how do you make your money, Mark?
So I do speaking. I travel the world, share my story with mainly corporates, because that's how you actually earn money. I work with various different brands, as an ambassador, or long term, or sometimes in short term one-off campaigns. As long as I like the brand and our values align, and it's congruent and legit. I'm not just gonna go and start representing a whiskey brand or whatever because I don't drink whiskey,
Yeah,
and I
sure.
don't drink any. I don't drink any alcohol, so it's not really. It's not. It's false. So as long as it all lines up and we're both happy, then I work with brands representing what they do. I bought a couple of houses over the years, so got some property, stock market stuff, bit of crypto. I'm no expert in any of it. I just play around with it. Um, yeah, and then whatever other opportunities come along, I'm diving into the TV world now and doing a bit more of the media, which is great. I love that stuff. Um, and yeah, whatever else comes along, if we can monetize it, we do.
No, good for you. Mark Allen is singing your praises. Mark Allen runs a community for accountants and bookkeepers, and that's where we met. We were both speaking at that
Yeah.
place, and I totally agree with him. Absolutely compelling story. And so if anyone wants to book Mark, how do they get hold of you, Mark, to book you?
To book me as a speaker,
Yeah,
you can find me on Instagram or just mark@markormrod.com, and you can email me there.
fantastic. TV. So what are you going to be doing on TV then? Come on, we want to see more Mark.
So it's quite funny actually. I get contacted a fair bit through Instagram and my social media about TV stuff, and most of it's like reality TV shows. So Big Brother have messaged. There's a new reality show on Netflix now called Squid Game. So they contacted me. There was another one about going on a desert island with my son and surviving out there. And I always find it really bizarre because they reach out to me, and I guess they just want a disabled contestant, right? And then I'm very low maintenance and I'm very independent, but you get to the end, and then they all turn around and say, "We're really sorry." And someone actually said this, "You're too disabled." And I'm like, "Wow, really? Okay, cool. Thanks for that." But I try and explore those opportunities. I've just signed a TV deal. I can't say too much about it, but it's taking part of my story and dramatizing it for like
Wow.
an entertainment thing. And what they pitched to me sounds phenomenal, and I can't wait to get stuck into that because I'll be on set, helping to guide it all and everything. So I'm looking forward to that. And then generally, things spill out from those opportunities. If you do it the right way and it gets the traction that you hope it'll get, other opportunities come off the back of it. So
Fantastic.
I'm writing a couple of books as well. It's just I'm trying to juggle all of that, but we'll
You're,
see.
you're writing a couple of books, not just one.
I'm writing a couple at the same time, and again, it's a strange one. I've been in contact with publishers, and they'll tell me that they like it, but then because you haven't got a big enough profile, because you haven't been on, some reality TV show, and you haven't got a million followers on Instagram, most people aren't interested. So, I'm going to go down the self-publishing route and see what we can do there, because the kind of stuff I'm writing about is stuff that I talk about, which from the feedback I get is stuff that can help people, and it's quite sad that sometimes people aren't interested in that. They want the controversy and the negativity, or whatever it may be, that will sell the books or the TV shows or whatever. And, I'm more about sending a positive message and creating content to help people that need it.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it's all about resilience, and if anyone knows about resilience, it's got to be you, surely.
Yeah, I'm a big advocate of that. Like with my own kids, I I've got to be careful how I say this because I sound like I torture him. But I don't like my son. My son plays football and he's very good at it, but he's only 12, and sometimes if it's raining and it's cold, he won't want to go. But we'll convince him to go because it's only rain. He'll come back to a nice warm house, a warm shower, warm bed, warm food. Going out there and doing that when he doesn't want to do it because it's not comfortable will build resilience in him, right? So those are the kind of things I try and instill in my children. You know, we'll take them on runs sometimes. My wife will take them on like a 1 mile, 2 mile run. They sign up to the cross country at school. I remember cross country at school, and I hated it.
Yeah,
And
me
they hate,
too.
yeah, they hate it too. But it's building resilience. I don't care what position they come in. What I care about is they go out there, you know, they do some physical activity. It's uncomfortable. They get muddy and wet and cold, and they shivering a little bit at the end. They come home to a warm house, warm bed, warm food, and they've grown a little bit and developed a bit of a hard shell.
Yeah, no, and that is so important. I think it's we've got it too easy today. You know, we've got heating. If you're a little bit cold, you can buy another blanket or whatever it is. You know, and everything is too easy. And I guess were you resilient before you went into the Marines, or is that sort of like helped you become the person that you are today?
I think it's a series of things. You know, since I was a kid, um, I had a great childhood. I had everything I ever needed, which was wonderful. I did martial arts from the age of about 12. And, you know, before I was injured, I was 6'2". I weighed about 92 kilos. Kind of naturally, I was just a big person. So when I was growing up as a kid, when I used to compete in martial arts tournaments or single fights in the ring, I would always be fighting men. You know, I remember like before I joined the Marines, one of my last fights, I was 15 or 16 fighting a 34-year-old. But I only ever lost one out of, I think I had 12 fights before I joined the Marines. I only ever lost one. But by going up against men, I developed resilience. You know, even though if I was winning, it was hard just getting beaten and battered by people that they weren't, I was going to say much bigger than me. They weren't because we were obviously matched the same, but they were older. When you're a kid, that's a big thing. You know, when you're like, oh, I can't fight that guy, he's older than I am. Now, when you get to my age now, 40, it's the opposite. It's like, I don't want to fight that guy. He's too young. He'll kill me. Um, but yeah, sports help develop resilience. Again, with my son, I'm just going to use him as an example. I remember the first time his team lost a football game and they all cried. And I felt terrible. But then a part of me was like, no, they need this. They can't just win everything. They need to feel what it feels like to lose. So they'll come back and train harder. They'll readjust their approach, and then they appreciate winning more. You know, so I'm a big fan of that, of experiencing loss, so that you can appreciate winning.
Yeah, no, I love that. I love that. Got time for a quick question. Karen's saying, are you attending or supporting the Paralympics in 2024?
Not currently, not to my
Not currently.
knowledge, but
All right.
something might come up. An opportunity might come up. They might give me a microphone and get me to gob off in my Janner accent for a little bit.
We love the Janner accent. Absolutely.
Everyone loves the Janner accent.
Absolutely. Mark, that has just flown by. We all want to know what you're up to for Christmas and what your plans are for 2024. So come on, give us a rosy picture of what you're doing at Christmas.
I'm crossing the border into enemy territory. I'm going to Cornwall.
Oh my goodness, you're going to have scones with the cream on the wrong way around.
I know, it's terrible, isn't it? Now we're going to get away. We've got an apartment booked down in a place called Porth. We're going to spend a couple of days down there. My wife loves the beach and sea swimming, so we're right on the beach by the look of the photos. I'm going to chill out there for a bit. I've got to that time of year now, I think everyone's at, where I really feel like I need a break.
Yep.
I just need to switch everything off and ignore people and just watch Die Hard 1 and Die Hard 2 and Die Hard 3 and Die Hard 4 and eat mince pies and chill out and just relax. I don't drink generally, but I might even treat myself to a Guinness
Guinness, is that not a little twee little sherry or something?
I don't know. The point is, I'm going to relax a little bit and
Good for you.
excuse the pun, but put my feet up and chill.
That is stop it. You made me chuckle. And what are your plans for 2024? Where can we see more of you?
I'll be pretty much doing the same thing, just picking up where I left off. I want to keep pursuing these book writing projects, keep pursuing the TV work, keep working with really cool brands that I like, and helping to spread a positive message. And yeah, just living the dream on my terms, doing what I want to do, and hopefully making a positive change in the world.
Well, you definitely made a positive change on this show today. So thank you so much. Thank you to everybody for all your lovely comments. And I'm going to end with Mark's. Great job, Ashley and Mark. Brilliantly energizing, engaging, and humbling. Mark Ormrod, you are a lovely, lovely chap. Thank you so much for gracing my show today. It's been an absolute pleasure. To everybody else watching, I wish you all an absolutely fantastic Christmas. I will be back next year. You take care, everybody. Cheerio, Mark.
Thanks, mate.
You get out what you put in.